Adolf Hitler was bad, but what the Muslims want to do to the Jews is worse.
Good evening from Los Angeles. I'm Tavis Smiley. Tonight I'll look at perhaps the most misunderstood world religion, Islam.
I think Muhammad was a terrorist.
This is an act of al-Qaeda, then it is yet another example of this depraved and inexcusable actions of these immoral, godless individuals who are manipulating the faith of 1 billion Muslims to justify their murderous ideology.
For Muslim observers outside of America, the invasion of Afghanistan in 2001, followed by the war in Iraq in 2003, has created tensions that show no signs of abating. For American Muslims, it comes down to loyalty. Can you be a patriot, an American and a Muslim? Farouk Muhammad was with the New York City Fire Department on the day the Twin Towers were hit.
There were Muslims like me there, you know.
Who died.
And some that died. Definitely Muslims died there, you know, trying to help others, you know. And we're American just like other Americans who are not Muslim. And we were trying our best, and it hurt us just as much as it hurt them. Then and even now, when people have questions, my character and my personality is always to inform them as much as I can. No matter who might want to misconstrue the Quran, there's nothing in there that would ever justify any such act by anybody.
I like this. It fits with our hip 20-something lifestyle. Oh, for Allah's sake, put some clothes on! Now, how about a beer?
C'est très clairement les musulmans aujourd'hui, quand on voit qu'on fait une proposition de loi contre la burqa qui concerne peut-être 2000 personnes en France, mais que c'est ça qui est à l'agenda du gouvernement français, on voit bien qu'il faut en remettre une couche périodiquement pour bien voir, c'est ça l'ennemi, c'est eux qui sont potentiellement dangereux, c'est eux qu'il faut absolument stigmatiser. Même si on se contrefiche, ça n'aura aucun effet.
Mais vous dites que l'islamophobie, vous la décrivez comme galopante et pas seulement en France. Vous dites qu'elle est partout.
Elle est partout.
Elle est mondialisée.
Do you feel it's hard to be a Muslim in America today?
Well, I think there's definitely a lot of challenges.
Another big number that I saw in that Gallup poll said that 39% of Americans were in favor of Muslims, whether it be American Muslims or Muslims just living here, should carry special identification cards.
That are trying to reduce their faith and religion to terrorism and labeling anything Islamic Islamofascism.
There are said to be 8 million Muslims in the United States, and the faith is said to be the fastest growing religion in this country. And the roots and history of Islam are longer than most people are aware of.
Caddo Mills is a one-horse town on Route 66. It's got one gas station, one grocery store, 6 churches, and one white Muslim, David.
Islam emphasizes a lot of the same ideals that this country was actually founded on. Ideals of individual rights for all people, equality under the law.
More and more people of all ethnicities are finding their way to Islam. A third of all Muslims in America, about 2 million, are converts. After 9/11, Muslims were for a time regarded with suspicion, but they didn't hide. In fact, Islam has come out in force and attracted a wave of converts. Since 9/11, nearly 250,000 Americans have converted to Islam.
So I have a 10-year-old nephew, man. I love him to death. He's like my own son, but his name happens to be Usama. I walked up to him, I was like, Habibi, you want to go out to Walmart? Let's go to Walmart, I'll buy you a toy. We get to Walmart, you know, he's 10 years old. He's running away. I can't call him. I'm sitting there, hey, Sammy, come here. He looks at me, he's like, no, my name's Usama! Shut up! You know how many people hunt in Texas? Shut up!
It's hard being a teenager, but it's even harder being a teenager that is perceived to be different than everyone else.
Definitely after 9/11, suddenly there was this increased consciousness as Muslims as terrorists or being somehow foreign. And that did make it difficult for a lot of Muslim teenagers because, like you said, being a teenager is difficult enough.
A couple friends of mine accused me of being in the Taliban and said I couldn't play a soccer game or a football game with them. And I said, why not? And they said, oh, well, you're in the Taliban. And so I knew their comments didn't come from hate, they came from ignorance.
During the day on campus, sometimes for maintenance reasons or just like traveling time-wise, we can't get to the reflection room to pray. So I have to, I usually go to the library and find a little corner. And it's kind of awkward to pray because people kind of look at you awkward and like you're trying to focus and really be into your prayer. So that's a struggle because prayer is so important in Islam and to me, and I try my best to always get it in. And no matter where I'm at, what I'm doing, I'm gonna go pray. But like having people kind of look at you awkward or stare or make noises or whatever, that can be a struggle.
Can you be Muslim and American, Abdi?
Yes. You have to be American first, and you have to do what other Americans do. You sacrifice your life to defending America because this is our country. This is.
You feel that? You don't think about going back home?
I'll sacrifice my life defending this country because the opportunity I get, the welcoming I get.
That's a powerful statement.
Compared to where I come from, how we were, how I was, there's a lot of friends of mine who died in the war, where I come from. Coming here, having what I have is home.
Research here suggests the number of Muslim slaves was much greater than previously thought.
1/3 of all of the enslaved Africans that were brought to the Americas actually were Muslims. Nobody knows this. This is kind of new cutting-edge information because when we read our history books, we don't see that.
This country has to understand that its roots, especially when it comes to African American, is an Islamic root. African Americans should not see that as just a religion. It is as part of its heritage.
I think that Islam can be the cure to America's ills if it's openly accepted.
This frieze pays homage to the ideas and principles that have inspired the American legal system, and one of the foundation documents represented in this frieze is the Quran. And in the nation's capital, there are a few other references to Islam, largely unknown, rarely seen. The Thomas Jefferson Building contains the Library of Congress, the oldest cultural institution in Washington, which was completed in the 19th century. Around the dome of the reading room is a mural meant to represent the nations and ideas that contributed most to American civilization. And it might come as a surprise to historians that amongst the ideas represented here is Islam. Beneath this great mural, I'm meeting Congressman Keith Ellison, who I came across at the start of my journey in Minneapolis.
So Keith, tell me about when you took your oath of office, because it was on a copy of the Quran and not just any copy.
Well, in fact, it was on this Quran that we have right here before us. And, in fact, this Quran, which is a 2-volume set, has the initials TJ inscribed right here. Thomas Jefferson. And so, we said this is...
What was your reaction when you found out that one of the founding fathers had his own copy of the Quran?
Right, I was gobsmacked.